child's brain splattered across the Galactic Council floor as the alien executioner coldly fired his disruptor. That innocent blood unleashed humanity's fury, awakening the wrath of Earth's most ancient warships, hidden away for centuries, awaiting this very moment of betrayal. Captain Logan Carter stood on the bridge of the HSS Indomitable, orbiting Earth, fists and jaw clenched as he watched the live feed. The repulsive Ithorian counselor Xanth had just smugly announced the Council's ban on all human FTL travel, confining mankind to its home system. Then, for the alleged crime of a human boy vandalizing an alien shrine, they brutally executed the crying child. "Let this be a lesson to your primitive species," Xanth sneered at the camera. "Humanity's disobedience will no longer be tolerated." The feed cut out. Logan's voice was a hoarse whisper. "They killed a child." Commander Hawkins gripped the rail, knuckles white. "What are your orders, sir?" A cold fury filled Logan's eyes as he turned to his crew. "Signal the fleet, power up the Nova cannons, and plot an FTL jump straight to the Galactic Council's headquarters." This was the day humanity had long dreaded yet secretly prepared for. The day the aliens would show their true fangs and cross a line they could never come back from. It was the day that would see humanity's homeworld threatened and the Council's betrayal of galactic law. Today, the alien aggressors would pay in blood, and Earth's most powerful warships, dormant for centuries, would shake the galaxy. Deep within the heart of the Rocky Mountains, stone cracked and parted, and camouflage doors swung open. Captain Logan Carter marched into the hidden depths, flanked by his highest-ranking Earth Defense Force officers. The long concrete halls were dark, lit only by flickering fluorescent bulbs. Boot heels clicked on cement as the group approached an immense blast door, solid steel several feet thick. Logan stepped forward, placing his palm against the biometric scanner. It beeped in recognition, and slowly, ponderously, the door began to grind open. It swung wide to reveal a cavernous underground hangar shrouded in shadow. Logan hit a switch on the wall, and floodlights snapped on, illuminating the secret space. The officers gasped, eyes going wide. Filling the hangar were rows upon rows of warships, their hulls forged from a strange iridescent metal that glimmered under the lights. The ships were angular, sleek, predatory, like nothing any of the men had seen before. Logan turned to face his men, his expression hard as granite. "Gentlemen, allow me to introduce you to the Sigma Fleet, built in secret during the early days of human space exploration and hidden away as a last resort. When the Council confined us to our home system, they had no idea of the ace up our sleeve." Commander Hawkins stepped closer to the nearest vessel, reaching out to run a hand along the prow, brow furrowed in awe. "I thought the Sigma Fleet was just a myth." Logan shook his head. "The Sigma Fleet is very real, and it's time to show the galaxy exactly what human ingenuity and determination can accomplish. The Council wants to confine us to Earth. Let's see how they like it when we show up on their doorstep with technology centuries ahead of their own. With the power of the Sigma Fleet, we will make them pay for their crimes and secure humanity's place among the stars." The gathered officers exchanged glances, faces set with steely resolve. As one, they nodded. Logan straightened his uniform and strode toward the lead ship, the others falling into step behind him. "It is time to remind the galaxy that humanity bows to no one," Logan said, his voice ringing through the hangar. "We have been pushed too far, and now we push back. Today we bring the fight to the Council's door. Today, they learn the consequences of their betrayal. Today, we unleash the Sigma Fleet." Light years away, Counselor Xanth lounged on a floating divan in his lavish quarters, the very picture of decadence. The craggy-faced Aoran sipped a glowing green liquor, savoring the burn as it slid down his throat. The drink was potent enough to strip paint off a starship hull, but to Xanth, it might as well have been water. An air chime sounded, and Xanth glanced up languidly as a holoscreen winked on. The face of Yik, his aide, swam into view, the diminutive Aeon's normally gray skin flushed an anxious violet. "Counselor, our long-range sensors have detected a large fleet of unknown vessels entering our system at high speeds," Yik said, his voice tight. Xanth waved a dismissive hand, his many rings glinting. "So, send a patrol to intercept them. Probably just some upstart race trying to make a name for themselves." Yik shook his head, the movement jerky with barely suppressed panic. "Sir, The patrol is already gone. They were destroyed the moment they entered weapons range of the unknown ships. We didn't even have time to get a visual on what attacked them. Xanth sat bolt upright, his drink sloshing over the side of the goblet. What? How is that possible? What kind of weapons are they using? Xanth lurched to his feet, striding over to an ornate control panel set into the wall. His fingers flew over the interface, punching in a code. The room darkened as a massive holographic display burst to life, filling the air with a glowing star map of the Aoran system. A cluster of angry red dots was speeding toward the central blue orb that represented the Aoran homeworld. Xanth stared uncomprehendingly as he took in the sheer number of incoming ships. By the gods, there are hundreds of them. How could an unknown race possibly have a fleet that size without us knowing about it? An icy tendril of dread curled in Xanth's gut as he studied the display, a horrifying suspicion crystallizing in his mind. He turned to the holoscreen, meeting Yik's terrified gaze. Yik, tell me everything you can about the configuration and capabilities of those ships. Leave nothing out. Xanth's voice was deathly calm, belying the fear churning inside him. Because if he was right about the identity of these invaders, then he had just made the gravest mistake of his life. A mistake that might very well spell the end of everything he knew. Yik's report was not encouraging. The ships were angular and sleek, their hulls composed of an unknown iridescent alloy that defied scans. They moved with impossible grace and speed, their formations flawless, and their weapons, by the ancestors, their weapons. Plasma cannons that tore through shields like they were paper. Missiles that moved faster than the eye could track and never missed, and some strange directed energy beam that sliced ships into pieces with surgical precision. But worst of all was the symbol emblazoned on the prows of the incoming ships. A symbol that every species in the galaxy had grown to fear, even if only through whispered rumors and half-remembered legends. The symbol of the Terran Dominion. Humanity had returned, and this time, they were not coming in peace. They would reclaim their place as the galaxy's fiercest warriors. The alliance was forged in the fires of mutual hatred and a shared desire for freedom. The Terran fleet and the Voron forces joined in a formidable coalition, preparing for the battles to come. Word of their alliance spread quickly, and other oppressed species began to take notice, seeing a glimmer of hope in the combined strength of the humans and Vorans. Back on the HSS Indomitable, Captain Logan Carter convened a war council with his top officers and the Voran leaders. The holographic display showed the layout of the galaxy, highlighting strategic points and potential targets. First, we need to secure the Outer Rim territories, Logan said, pointing to a series of red dots on the map. These systems are rich in resources and lightly defended. Taking them will give us the supplies we need and weaken the Council's outer defenses. The Voran leader, General Krelak, nodded in agreement. My people know those territories well. We can launch swift and decisive strikes to take them by surprise. Commander Hawkins added, we should also consider disrupting the Council's communication networks. If we can cut off their ability to coordinate, their forces will be easier to defeat piecemeal. Logan agreed. Samir, start working on a plan to hack their comm systems. We need to be ready to strike on multiple fronts simultaneously. The room buzzed with activity as plans were laid and strategies devised. The combined forces of humanity and the Vorons prepared to launch a campaign that would change the balance of power in the galaxy forever. Meanwhile, Counselor Xanth sat in his quarters, brooding over the recent events. The human and Voran alliance was a direct threat to the Council's dominance, and he knew drastic measures would be needed to counter it. He called for an emergency meeting of the Galactic Council, urging his fellow members to unite their fleets and resources to crush the uprising. As the Council debated their response, Logan and his allies moved quickly. The first strikes against the Outer Rim territories were swift and brutal. Human and Voran ships descended on the unsuspecting Council outposts, overwhelming their defenses and capturing vital resources. The coordinated attacks left the Council reeling, their forces scattered and disorganized. In one particularly daring raid, Logan led a task force deep into Council territory to seize a critical shipyard. The battle was fierce, but the combined might of the Sigma fleet and the Voran warriors proved unstoppable. As the shipyard fell, Logan knew they had dealt a significant blow to the Council's war machine. Back on the bridge of the Indomitable, Logan received a transmission from General Krelak. Captain, our scouts have reported that several other species are considering joining our cause. The Council's oppressive rule has made many enemies. Logan smiled grimly. Good. The more allies we have, the stronger we become. We need to show them that victory is possible. As the days turned into weeks, the Alliance grew in strength and numbers. The once feared Galactic Council now found itself on the defensive, struggling to maintain control over its vast empire. The oppressed species of the galaxy rallied to the banner of the Human-Voron Coalition, each seeking their own liberation. The Council's counterattacks were fierce, but the combined forces of humanity and their allies held their ground. The advanced technology of the Sigma fleet, coupled with the ferocity of the Voran warriors, proved to be a formidable combination. Each victory further bolstered their resolve, and the tide of war began to turn. In a final, desperate bid to regain control, the Council amassed its remaining fleets for a decisive battle at the heart of their empire. The stage was set for a confrontation that would determine the fate of the galaxy. As the Allied fleet approached the Council's stronghold, Logan addressed his crew. This is it, the battle that will decide our future. We fight not just for ourselves, but for every species that has suffered under the Council's tyranny. Today, we show the galaxy that freedom is worth fighting for. The Allied forces surged forward, clashing with the Council's armada in a cataclysmic battle. Ships from both sides were torn apart in the fierce exchange of fire. Amidst the chaos, Logan and General Krelak led a daring assault on the Council's flagship. In the final moments of the battle, Logan faced off against Counselor Xanth. "This is the end of your tyranny, Xanth," Logan declared, his voice resolute. Xanth, cornered and desperate, snarled, "You may win this battle, human, but the Council's legacy will live on. Others will rise to take our place." Logan shook his head. "No, today we break the cycle. Today we reclaim our destiny." With a final devastating strike, Logan and Krelak brought down the Council's flagship, signaling the end of the battle. The remnants of the Council's fleet scattered, their power broken. As the dust settled, the Allied forces stood victorious. The galaxy was forever changed. The oppressive rule of the Galactic Council had been shattered, and a new era of freedom and cooperation began. Logan looked out at the stars, a sense of accomplishment washing over him. "We did it," he said quietly. "We gave the galaxy a future worth fighting for." And so, the legacy of the Sigma fleet and the brave warriors who fought alongside them was etched into the annals of galactic history, a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity and their allies. "We will savor the taste of the Council's terror," Logan declared, as the screen went dark. He turned to his crew, a fire burning in his eyes. "The game pieces are moving into position. Prepare the fleet. It's time we bring the fight to the Council's doorstep." The combined human and Voran fleet tore out of hyperspace at the fringes of the Galactic Council's home system, a densely packed cluster of heavily populated worlds and immense orbital installations. Instantly, warning klaxons wailed across the system as the Council's defenses came online, forming a seemingly impenetrable barrier of warships around the central planet, the heart of the Council's dominion. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Logan surveyed the gathered forces with a discerning gaze. They've pulled back their fleets from across the galaxy. The core of their military strength is here. Samir scowled at the tactical readout. Even with the Voran numbers, we're still outmatched in raw firepower. Logan nodded grimly. "Which is why we won't be engaging them head-on. We have to be tactical about this." He keyed the fleet-wide comm. "All vessels, commence Phase 1. The human and Voran ships began to maneuver, not toward the waiting Council armada, but in a broad arc skirting the system's perimeter, angling for a massive space station bristling with sensor arrays and communication antenna. "That's their primary system-wide comms and surveillance nexus," Logan explained. "We knock that out, we blind them, and sow chaos in their coordination." As the fleet closed in on the station, the Council warships guarding it accelerated to intercept. Just before they entered firing range, the human vessels shimmered and multiplied, each ship abruptly fracturing into a dozen mirror images. The Council ships wavered, thrown into confusion as their scanners were inundated with false returns. By the time they realized the ruse, it was too late. The true human ships, shrouded by the sensor phantoms, were already on top of them. The void around the station erupted into a vicious melee. The Council vessels fought valiantly, but were outclassed by the humans' technological edge and the Vorons' sheer savagery. Within minutes, the station's defenses crumbled under the relentless assault. Logan watched, as the station's sensor arrays exploded in a shower of sparks and debris. "Phase 2, initiate," he commanded. The fleet shifted, splitting into smaller groups. Each group targeted critical infrastructure, power stations, supply depots, and secondary communication hubs, crippling the Council's ability to coordinate a unified defense. On the Council's command ship, Counselor Xanth barked orders, his voice strained with panic. "Regroup! We must hold the line!" But the Council's forces were in disarray. The sudden, coordinated strikes had left them reeling, unable to mount an effective counterattack. Amidst the chaos, Logan's fleet pressed their advantage, systematically dismantling the Council's defenses. In the heart of the Council's home planet, political leaders and military strategists scrambled to respond. They had underestimated the humans and their allies, and now they faced the consequences of their hubris. Back on the Indomitable, Logan received a transmission from General Krelak. "Our scouts report that the Council's command structure is in shambles. They're retreating to fortified positions within their capital." Logan's eyes narrowed. "Then we push forward. We need to strike while they're vulnerable." The Allied fleet surged toward the central planet, their path littered with the wreckage of Council ships. As they approached the planet's atmosphere, the final line of defense, a ring of orbital battle stations, came into view. Logan addressed his crew, his voice steady and determined. "This is it, the Council's last stand. We take those battle stations, and the heart of their dominion will be exposed." The fleet split into assault groups, each targeting a different battle station. The ensuing battles were fierce, but the human and Voran forces fought with unparalleled determination. One by one, the battle stations fell, their defenses overwhelmed by the relentless onslaught. As the last station crumbled, Logan ordered the fleet into a holding pattern just outside the planet's atmosphere. "Open a channel to the Council," he instructed. On the view screen, Counselor Xanth's haggard face appeared, his eyes wide with fear and disbelief. "What do you want, human?" he demanded, his voice trembling. Logan leaned forward, his gaze unwavering. "Surrender. Acknowledge humanity's right to expand and explore. Lift the ban on our FTL travel, and cease all acts of aggression against us. Failure to comply will result in your complete annihilation." Xanth's nostrils flared, his pride warring with his fear. "The Council will never agree to your demands. You're just one species. You can't dictate terms to the entire galaxy." Logan's expression hardened. "You've seen what we can do. Do not underestimate our resolve. This is your last chance." The transmission ended, leaving Xanth to ponder the dire situation. The Council's power had been shattered, and the future of their dominion hung in the balance. As the Allied fleet held their position, waiting for the Council's response, Logan knew the road ahead would be long and fraught with challenges. But today, they had taken a decisive step toward a new future. A future where humanity would no longer be subjugated, but would stand as a powerful force among the stars. And so, the stage was set for the final confrontation. A battle that would determine the fate of the galaxy and usher in a new era of freedom and cooperation. The station's defenses were overrun, and a fusillade of human quantum torpedoes reduced the massive construct to an expanding cloud of wreckage. Across the system, Council ships reeled as their communications were cut, their fleet-wide data network dissolving into white noise. Amidst the disarray, the human and Voran ships pressed their advantage, hammering key targets, shipyards, weapons emplacements, resupply points, with surgical precision. On the Indomitable, Logan watched as the Council's tight defensive formation started to fray, their ships floundering to react to threats flaring up across the system. "Phase 1 accomplished. Commence Phase 2, he commanded. The human and Voran fleet regrouped, no longer skirting the main Council armada, but driving straight at it, weapons hot. Logan opened a channel to the Council flagship. "This is Captain Logan Carter of the Earth Sigma fleet. Your comms are severed, your defenses are buckling, and your fleet is in chaos. Surrender now, and your lives will be spared." There was a protracted silence. Then, a familiar visage filled the screen. Counselor Xanth, his features contorted with spiteful defiance. "We will never yield to you, human scum. We will battle to the last vessel, the last warrior, the last gasp." Logan regarded him icily. "So be it." He cut the channel and turned to his crew. "Signal all ships, no mercy given. Let's end this." The human and Voran ships plunged into the heart of the Council fleet, weapons blazing as the alien vessels swarmed to meet them. The void lit up with the glare of 1,000 exploding suns as the two sides clashed, energy beams and missiles crisscrossing the gulf between them. Logan gripped the arms of his command chair as the Indomitable shuddered under a barrage of impacts, its shields flaring. On the view screen, a human destroyer erupted into a ball of plasma as a Council dreadnought's siege cannon found its mark. An Ioran cruiser, trailing flames and debris, rammed a Council frigate, both ships disappearing in a blinding flash of mutual annihilation. "Concentrate fire on their command ships," Logan barked, his eyes never leaving the tactical display. "We cut off the head, the body dies." The human fleet shifted formation, the Indomitable at the tip of the spear as they bore down on the Council's leadership vessels. The alien ships moved to screen their commanders, pouring a storm of fire into the human advance. A Council battleship, its hull pitted and scorched, loomed before the Indomitable, its grav cannons hammering at the human dreadnought's shield. Logan gritted his teeth as consoles sparked and exploded around him, the bridge filling with acrid smoke. "Divert power to forward shields and weapons," he commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. "Samir, find me a weak point." Samir's hands flew over his console, his brow furrowed in concentration. There, a fluctuation in their AR shield grid, coordinates Gamma 615. The Indomitable swung hard to starboard, its prow aimed squarely at the Council battleship's stern. A heartbeat later, its guns erupted, a searing lance of concentrated energy scorching across the void to impact directly on the weak point in the alien ship's defenses. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, the Council vessel seemed to bulge outward, cracks racing across its hull as secondary explosions chained through its interior. With a final, soundless detonation, the mighty warship shattered, torn apart from within by a catastrophic reactor breach. Through the expanding field of debris, Logan caught a glimpse of the Council flagship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons. Xanth's ship, the seat of the Council's power and arrogance. Logan leaned forward in his chair, his eyes narrowing. "All ships, converge on the flagship. It's time to cut the head off the snake." The human and Voran ships smashed into the Council armada, weapons blazing. Beams of searing energy sliced through enemy hulls, missiles corkscrewed through the void to detonate against failing shields and blossoms of fire. The Council ships returned fire, but the Allies' advanced technology and sheer ferocity overwhelmed them. At the heart of the chaos, the Indomitable and Xanth's flagship pounded each other in a vicious duel, lances of energy crackling back and forth between the two mighty vessels, chewing through armor and boiling away hull plating. On the Indomitable's bridge, a console exploded in a shower of sparks. Logan gripped his command chair as the deck shuddered beneath him. The Indomitable's guns thundered in response, a relentless barrage hammering into the Council flagship's stern. The enemy ship's shields flared, flickered, then died under the onslaught. Flame blossomed from its engine section as the Indomitable's weapons found their mark. The flagship spun out of control, trailing debris and plasma. But it was too late. The dreadnought's main gun, a gargantuan particle beam cannon, unleashed its fury. The Indomitable's shields flared brilliantly for an instant before collapsing. The beam slammed into the ship's bow, burning through decks, vaporizing bulkheads, and leaving utter devastation in its wake. The bridge dissolved into chaos, panels detonating, spewing flame and shrapnel. Crewmen were hurled from their stations as the deck heaved. Logan dragged himself upright, blood running into his eyes from a gash on his forehead. Damage reports flooded in. Hull breaches, weapons disabled, engines crippled. But the dreadnought pressed its attack, bracketing the wounded Indomitable with salvo after punishing salvo. Logan could only watch helplessly as his ship shuddered and burned under the onslaught, his vengeance slipping away. Then, a miracle. A squadron of Voran cruisers, seeing the Indomitable's desperate plight, broke formation and charged the dreadnought, guns blazing. Caught off guard, its shields already strained from its duel with the Indomitable, the Council ship's defenses swiftly crumbled under the concentrated fire. The Voran ships swarmed over it like enraged wasps, explosions stippling the dreadnought's hull as the Voran zeroed in on its weapons and engines with merciless precision. In minutes, the once unstoppable warship was reduced to a shattered hulk, drifting lifelessly. A ragged cheer went up on the Indomitable's battered bridge. Logan sagged back in his chair, exhausted and bloody, but alive. He surveyed the battle space, where the Council fleet, shaken by the destruction of its flagship and dreadnought, was falling back in disarray. "Ceasefire," Logan ordered wearily. "Commence rescue and recovery, and someone bring me a damage assessment." The Allied fleet began to secure the area, tending to the wounded and salvaging what they could from the battlefield. The once proud Council Armada lay in ruins, their defeat a testament to the indomitable spirit of humanity and their allies. As the fires of battle cooled, Logan knew that the war was far from over. But today, they had won a decisive victory. They had shown the galaxy that they would not be cowed, that they would fight for their freedom and their future. And with each battle, they moved one step closer to a galaxy free from the Council's tyranny. Logan closed his eyes briefly. "We've carried the day, but this war is far from finished." In the aftermath of the Titanic battle, the Indomitable drifted in space, her hull scored by energy blasts and great rents torn in her armored sides. Damage control teams rushed through the corridors, sealing breaches and rerouting power from shattered conduits. On the bridge, Logan conferred with his chief engineer, poring over damage reports on a flickering screen. "Route all available power to the repair drones," Logan ordered. "Prioritize hull integrity and engine function. We need to be battle-ready as soon as possible." As the crew worked feverishly to bring the mighty ship back to fighting form, the rest of the fleet limped into view, many vessels bearing the scars of the ferocious engagement. Voran ships, their angular hulls adorned with vibrant war paint, docked with the Indomitable, disgorging hordes of boisterous warriors onto the human ship's decks. In the main hangar, a raucous celebration was underway as the Voran toasted their victory, clashing their weapons together and downing great flagons of potent, shimmering liquor. Human crew members, caught up in the infectious spirit, joined in the revelry, trading war stories and claps on the back with their fierce allies. But even as the festivities reached a fever pitch, urgent communications began flooding the Indomitable's channels. Logan, his face grim, called his senior staff to the briefing room. "Reports are coming in from across the galaxy," he said, his voice tight. "With the Council's central fleet destroyed and their comms in disarray, uprisings are breaking out on dozens of worlds. Long-oppressed species are rising against their Council masters." Samir, his eyes alight, leaned forward. "This is the chance we've been waiting for, sir. The Council is reeling. If we strike now, hard and fast, we could end their tyranny once and for all." Logan nodded, his mind racing. He turned to the Voran commander, a grizzled warrior with a jagged scar bisecting his face. "What say you, Commander Trax? Your people have suffered under the Council's yoke for centuries. Will you fight with us in this final push?" Trax bared his fangs in a fierce grin. "The Voran are with you, human. Our blades are thirsty for Council blood. Give the word, and we will unleash the full fury of our wrath." Logan stood, his eyes hard as flint. "Then it's settled. We'll launch a coordinated assault on the Council's key strongholds. We'll hit them from all sides and cut off the head of the snake. It's time to finish this once and for all." As the fleet leaders departed to brief their crews and prepare for the coming offensive, an urgent hail blinked on Logan's personal comm. He frowned, stepping into a private alcove to take the call. The face that appeared on the screen was haggard, drawn with fear and exhaustion. It was one of Logan's covert operatives deep in Council space. "Captain," the operative whispered, glancing over his shoulder as if afraid of being overheard. "I have urgent news. Counselor Xanth, he's alive. He escaped the destruction of his flagship." Logan's blood ran cold. "What? How?" "I don't know, but he's rallying the remnants of the Council's forces, preparing for a counterattack. And, Captain, there's more." The operative licked his lips, his voice trembling. "Xanth has a weapon, some kind of doomsday device. They say it has the power to destroy entire star systems. He's threatening to use it if the Council's rule is truly broken." Logan's fist clenched, his knuckles white. The stakes had just gotten unimaginably higher. If Xanth was allowed to unleash this weapon. "Understood," he said, his voice like gravel. "Keep me informed." As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, the stars blurring into streaks of light, Logan stared out the viewport, his jaw tight. They were headed for a remote, heavily defended Council base, where Xanth was reportedly holed up with his apocalyptic weapon. It would be a mission fraught with danger, a desperate race against annihilation. But as Logan looked around at the faces of his crew, hard and determined, he felt a flicker of hope amid the dread. They were humanity's champions, the tip of the spear. If anyone could pull this off, it was them. The Indomitable dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Council base's sensor range. Logan turned to his tactical officer. "Initiate full stealth protocols," he ordered. Not so much as a whisper, you understand? As the mighty ship slipped into the shadow of an orbiting moon, sensor-absorbent coating rendering it all but invisible, Logan gathered his strike team in the armory. They were the best of the best, each one handpicked for their skills and courage. As they checked their weapons and armor, an electric tension filled the air, a coil of anticipation. Logan met each of their eyes in turn, his gaze unwavering. "You all know the stakes," he said quietly. "If we fail, if Xanth deploys that weapon, there's no coming back from that." He placed a hand on the nearest soldier's shoulder, his grip firm. "But we will not fail. We can't. The fate of the galaxy rests on our shoulders." The strike team nodded as one, their faces set with iron resolve. They knew the odds, knew the risks, but they also knew their duty. As the Indomitable glided silently toward the looming Council base, Logan felt a chill run down his spine. Somewhere in that sprawling complex of steel and shadows, Xanth was waiting, his finger poised over the trigger of damnation. It would be a battle unlike any they had faced before, a desperate struggle in the heart of the enemy's power. But as Logan checked the charge on his plasma rifle, he allowed himself a grim smile. The Council had underestimated humanity for the last time. One way or another, this ended today. The Indomitable glided silently through the void, a predator stalking its prey. On the bridge, Logan stood tense and ready, his eyes fixed on the view screen displaying the Council base growing larger by the second. "Prepare for breach," he ordered, his voice low and steady. His hand-picked strike team, the best of the best, checked their weapons one final time, faces set with grim determination. As the ship closed in, the base's defenses came to life, energy cannons and missile batteries swiveling to lock on. But the Indomitable was ready, its advanced stealth technology rendering it all but invisible to the enemy's sensors. "Fire the EMP," Logan commanded. A pulse of blue-white energy erupted from the ship's prow, washing over the base in a cascading wave. In an instant, the defenses fell silent, their power systems fried. "Go, go, go!" Logan roared, leading the charge as the strike team surged forward. Breaching pods slammed into the base's hull, cutting through the outer bulkheads like a plasma torch through butter, spilling the team into the corridors beyond. Alarms blared and emergency lights flashed as the Council's elite guards rallied to meet them. Plasma fire crisscrossed the halls as the two forces clashed, the air thick with the stench of ozone and burnt flesh. Logan was a whirlwind of motion, his rifle spitting blue death as he advanced, his team close behind. They pushed deeper into the labyrinthine base, leaving a trail of broken bodies in their wake. But the Council guards were relentless, pouring into the corridors like an endless tide. For everyone that fell, two more seemed to take their place, forcing the strike team to fight for every inch of ground. Logan gritted his teeth as a plasma bolt sizzled past his head, close enough to singe his hair. He dropped to one knee, snapping off a trio of shots that sent a guard tumbling, a smoking hole in his chest. All around him, his team was locked in desperate struggles, the close quarters leaving no room for error. He saw Sergeant Hawkins grappling with a hulking alien, the two rolling on the ground in a tangle of limbs. Private Zhang fell, clutching at the blackened ruin of her leg, her screams mixing with the cacophony of battle. But still, they pushed on, driven by a determination that bordered on madness. They had come too far, sacrificed too much to fail now. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of blood and fire, they reached the heart of the base. The doors to the central command center loomed before them, massive and imposing. Logan didn't hesitate. He slapped a breaching charge on the unyielding metal and stood back, his finger hovering over the detonator. Breach in 3, 2, 1. The world dissolved into smoke and thunder as the charge blew, ripping the doors from their frame. Logan was moving before the echoes faded, storming into the room beyond with his rifle raised. And there, standing amidst a bank of consoles and holographic displays, was Counselor Xanth. The alien's face twisted into a cruel smile as he saw Logan, his hand hovering over a control panel. "You're too late, human," he gloated, his voice dripping with malice. "With a single command, I can unleash the Doomsday device and reduce your precious..." Logan leveled his weapon at the counselor, his finger tightening on the trigger. "It's over, Xanth. Step away from the controls." But Xanth only laughed, a manic gleam in his eyes. "You think you've won? You think your little rebellion means anything? The Council's power is absolute, and I will see it restored, even if I have to destroy 1,000 worlds to do it." His hand slammed down on the control panel, the sound echoing through the sudden silence. But nothing happened. No alarms, no flashing lights, no indication that the Doomsday device had been activated. Xanth's eyes widened in shock and disbelief. He jabbed at the controls again and again, growing more frantic with each failed attempt. He whirled to face Logan, his face a mask of rage and confusion. Logan allowed himself a small, grim smile. "Did you really think we'd come here without a plan?" he asked softly. "While you were focused on us, our operatives were hacking your systems, disabling your weapon. It's over, Xanth. You've lost." For a long moment, Xanth just stared, his mouth working soundlessly. Then, with a scream of pure animalistic fury, he lunged at Logan, a hidden blade sliding from his sleeve. Logan met him head-on, blocking the alien strike with his rifle. The two leaders grappled, trading blows with brutal efficiency as the command center shuddered around them, rocked by the ongoing space battle overhead. They crashed into consoles, sparks flying as delicate equipment shattered under their weight. Logan felt the bite of Xanth's blade, a line of fire across his ribs, but he pushed through the pain, retaliating with a vicious elbow to the alien's throat. Xanth staggered back, gasping, and Logan pressed his advantage, a swift kick to the knee, a hammer blow to the temple, and the counselor was down, his blade clattering to the floor. Logan stood over his fallen foe, chest heaving, blood dripping from a dozen wounds. Xanth glared up at him, hatred etched into every line of his face. "Finish it then, human," he spat, his words thick with blood. "Take your revenge." For a long, tense moment, Logan just stared at him, his rifle unwavering. The temptation was there, burning in his veins like molten lead, to end it here, to repay all the pain and suffering the Council had inflicted with a single, justified pull of the trigger. But even as his finger tightened, a flicker of movement caught his eye. He turned, and what he saw turned his blood to ice in his veins. The Doomsday device's power core, a pulsating sphere of dark energy, was fluctuating wildly, arcs of electricity crawling across its surface. Warning lights flashed urgent red, and the low, ominous hum of building charge filled the air. In an instant, Logan understood. In the chaos of the fight, a stray shot or errant blow must have damaged the containment field. The core was destabilizing rapidly, its energies building to a cataclysmic release. Logan's mind raced desperately, seeking a solution, but he already knew there wasn't one. Not enough time to evacuate, not enough time to try and repair the damage. Only one path remained, a last desperate gamble. He turned to his strike team, the survivors of that hellish advance. They looked back at him, battered and bloodied, but unbroken, ready for whatever came next. "Get back to the ship," he ordered, his voice rough with emotion. "All of you, get as far away from here as you can." "But sir," Sergeant Hawkins protested, stepping forward. "What about you?" Logan met his gaze, a sad smile tugging at his lips. "I'll stay behind, try to contain the blast, buy you as much time as I can." Understanding dawned in the sergeant's eyes, followed by a flash of anguish. He started to argue, but Logan cut him off with a raised hand. "That's an order, Hawkins. Get our people out. It's the only way." For a long, painful moment, the two men just stared at each other, a lifetime of service and sacrifice passing between them. Then, slowly Hawkins nodded, tears glistening in his eyes. "It's been an honor, sir," he said softly, snapping a crisp salute. Logan returned the salute, his vision blurring. The honor was mine. One by one, the strike team filed out, each pausing to offer their own farewell. A clasp of the hand, a murmured word of thanks. Logan watched them go, pride and sorrow warring in his chest. Finally, he was alone. The command center silent, save for the ominous hum of the destabilizing core. He turned to face it, squaring his shoulders against the rising tide of fear. He thought of Earth, the rolling green hills of his childhood home. He thought of his crew, the brave men and women who had followed him to hell and back. And he thought of that small, innocent child, the one whose death had set all of this in motion. "This is for you, kid," he whispered, stepping forward into the maelstrom. "For all of you." The world dissolved into searing light and roaring thunder, and Captain Logan Carter knew no more. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed it and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. For every comment that says 888, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.